Okay. Hello, everybody. Still got a few people joining in here, but I'll go through some housekeeping items really quick. So just a reminder, when you're coming to our webinars, just to keep your mic off when you're not speaking. That just helps to make sure that our speakers not being interrupted. And that's pretty much it. I am recording the session. So if you've got questions, just feel free. I'm sure Andrea will give us a chance at some point to ask questions, or you've got the chat function you can use for that as well. So we've got Andrea Mulligan, who's the co-founder and CEO of Sleeping Giant Brewing Company in Thunder Bay. And she recently was awarded the Thunder Bay Chamber of Commerce Business Person of the Year Award. So congratulations.
Thanks. Although, you know what everyone says, was that business woman of the year? I'm like, no, it was business person of the year.
There you go. Yeah, so Andrea's going to talk to us about leadership and from grassroots and greatness. So I'll just leave it to you, Andrea.
Okay, awesome. So first of all, thanks for having me. And I love these opportunities just to be able to talk about business, because I love talking about my business, other people's businesses, business in general. It's such an awesome field to speak about, to learn about. And I've learned so much over the last 10 years, but please feel free to interrupt. If you have a question or anything at all, I'd love to have it be a bit more interactive, which I know isn't as easy Zooming. So, but please feel free just to interrupt me and ask a question or not. So, they also asked me to speak a bit about scaling my business. So obviously that's something that we've done. So maybe what I'll do is I'll talk a bit about leadership. I'll talk a bit about how to scale a business just from my personal experience, what might work for me, might not work for anybody else. But again, please feel free to ask questions. So just a little bit about my background. So I co-founded the brewery, September 2011 is when we incorporated. We broke ground on our renovations December 2011 and sold our first beer to the public June 14th, 2012. I co-founded with my husband, who is the head brewer for our company, and who we always said from the beginning makes this legit. Kyle's knowledge of brewing and the process and quality control is, of course, one of the most important things in our company right from day one. So Kyle and I presently are the only owners of the company. Our original partners left just after a year. If you are in business, as you know, it's not easy. It takes a lot of grit and grind and challenges you on a regular basis. Just when you think it might be getting easier, something else comes up to challenge you or to provoke thought or whatnot. So we did bring on another partner. We didn't think we could own the brewery on our own. We both have careers. My background is teaching. I've taught kindergarten for 23 years. I'm thinking about taking an early retirement finally, maybe in January. And my husband's a family physician here in town. So we still juggle our careers and our business. And for the longest time, I didn't realize that I was the best person to run our business. It took me a lot of time to figure that out and just to sort of put myself out there, right? Not being a business person. I don't have a business background, but what I've learned is running a successful business. It's good intuition, trusting your instincts, and just a lot of common sense, believe it or not, is sort of, if you have common sense, you're all set, I think. If not, I don't know how to help people there. But anyway, we do have common sense. So we had another partner. He ended up leaving the company a couple of years ago now. So I've been the CEO of the company since we transitioned, since we scaled up the company. So we definitely we're a grassroots company. That's the word I would use when we first opened. Literally it was just us working all the time. We would take the money out of the till, put it into the bank, not even count it, when we first opened. And now 9 years later, we are definitely more corporate. I hate that word. And as we've transitioned and grown our company, we've definitely had to try to mesh our grassroots vibe and philosophy with our more corporate approach. So I'll just talk, maybe I'll talk a bit about growth first, if that's okay with everybody, if you're interested in that. So we were a $0 company. We did obviously we were right from the ground up. We didn't know what we were doing, just trusted our instincts, a lot of common sense. I think in the beginning for me, growing myself and becoming comfortable as a leader in my company, and a person who feels that I can call myself a business person now, was having some mentorship. And I know that's what PARO is great for, but I was great friends with Lisa Maltese, who owns Maltese Grocer. So I would often seek out Lisa just as a sounding board for advice. And sometimes I take it and sometimes I wouldn't, depending on my what we were doing or my own opinions. I didn't have to agree with her, but I think that was a really important part of growing. Also, when we were about, it was 2015, I think, that we, no, sorry, 17, that we moved our business to a larger location where we quadrupled our production. So that was a huge move. And that's when I realized that I was the best person and I needed to take over and run our company. And that I just sort of maybe had the tenacity. I love to take risks. I'm comfortable taking risks. So I think that that made me the best person for that job. I just did that. Has anyone done that color theory personality dimension? So I just did that last week because I'm opening a new business, which is Sleeping Giant Childcare Center, which is sort of a branch of our brewery. We can always talk about that later, because we opened a daycare for our staff during COVID, and I had all the staff there do this color assessment. So I found out I'm an orange, which means I'm resourceful, and I have lots of filing cabinets open at once. So maybe that helps me sometimes or impedes me, I don't know. So we decided to grow our business. And even in the first year, we could have grown our business exponentially the first year because of our success. We were immediately successful, which was wonderful. Thunder Bay is uber hyper local focused, which is a fantastic. Still, we're an anomaly in our industry where we sell so much of our beer out our own front doors. So we're very fortunate there. However, we took the approach. We opened on a budget, our brewery when we first opened. And I think that's where it's hard because we want all the shiny brand new things first. And we definitely opened the brewery on a budget. So we opened the brewery for $500,000. And I'll never forget, the owner of Muskoka Brewing Company said to me, whatever your budget is, double it. And I said, no, we're not doing that. We're opening the brewery on a budget. And we did that. So our first year, we could have grown a lot. We had 2 fermenters. And what we did that first year is we added 1. So we've always had methodical, controlled growth. And you may or may not agree with that, but for us, it really worked. I really liked controlling our growth, not getting ahead to where, we can't meet demands now, but where we're growing and we're controlling how we're growing, how we're expanding our own market, and how we can maintain and sustain the market that we're presently in with the production that we have, versus getting ahead of ourselves and then not being able to provide the service that we want or the quality product that we want. So our first year, we grew by 50%. In our first year, we added 1 more fermenter, and we slowly grew over the first few years. When we moved to the new location, we quadrupled. So it was a big deal, and it was hard, and it still is hard because I'm still growing our company. Now we're over $4 million in sales, and we want to grow again exponentially. We still have a lot of room, and because we controlled our growth, we have a lot of room to still grow. And I'm so glad, especially with COVID hitting, that we weren't in every corner of Ontario or Manitoba, because we lost a lot of revenue. In 2020, we lost $1.5 million of revenue. And believe it or not, we were able to make up that revenue and come out a little bit ahead. So we actually had a really great year in 2021, which is a testament to definitely my team. I said when I accepted that lovely award that, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And at Sleeping Giant, there aren't any weak links. So everyone has a lot of strengths, and we really pull from them. And we did that in the hardest year, which was our COVID year. So when we grew, scaling was difficult. It was stressful, but we just kept communicating with our team. We were very transparent. You have to be able to gulp and take those big risks, because obviously we were investing more money in our business. And that's stressful too, to have loans to carry and things like that. We're fortunate because of our careers, we're able to access money sometimes a bit easier. So because we do have careers that we can fall back on. So that was always a little bit of a plus for us growing and trying to get some funds to grow. We also, we had trouble with leadership in our company, because as we grow, you really need to have someone leading, and we didn't have that. And so that's where I stepped in and took over literally from the ground up, from our payables to how we were paying our employees, to creating procedures. Now, of course, in the beginning, we didn't have procedures in our company. Now you walk into our company and we have everything from proper confidentiality agreements to a full employee handbook to SOPs, so on and so forth. And just before COVID had begun, I had tasked ourselves with setting up a 3-year strategic plan, which was very hard for me because we were becoming more corporate. And it really we had to take a hard look at our business and where we wanted to go and how we were going to achieve things. So we actually, even when COVID hit, we made the decision to continue with that plan, which was very difficult during such stressful times. And I had some staff members tap out, which was a-okay. And I held down the fort with whoever was able to manage that mentally as well with this planning. But right now we do have a 3-year strategic action plan for our business, which tackles everything from HR to procedures to our customers, how we're going to grow. So doing something like that was very valuable. I didn't do it on my own. I'm not a business person or have a business background. So I learned so much by hiring a team from Toronto to help us with that. And it was wonderful to have someone who I felt comfortable with talking about really those intimate parts of our business, which I wasn't ready yet to talk to our whole staff about, because we try to protect people, right? As we're growing, not everyone needs to know the stressors or the information or every detail. So I did hire a team, which was very expensive. It was about $25,000. And I would do it again. And it was stressful to make that decision during COVID, not knowing if our cash flow was there to do that. But I knew it was important not to let that aspect go and for us to plan so that we could continue to scale our company. But anyway, we ended with an action plan. It's increased all of our business literacy, our financial literacy, and has allowed me to help elevate my staff. We do a lot of hiring within our own company, which we're very fortunate. So we have a lot of people who started part-time with us who are now brewers. We have our marketing manager who is just a part-timer in the tap room. And if you follow us on social media, we're quite proud of that. She does a great job. Our sales manager now, who is running a small team, he started with us part-time. So we're very big on trying to figure out everyone's strengths, what they're good at, what they're not good at, and build from there and mentor within our own company. We also started SMART goals for our staff to set goals and to have an actual bonus program. So if you're not familiar with SMART goals, we could always talk about that too. But you can Google, you can Google it and it's a thing. So with manageable goals that are attainable. So the SMART stands for, it's an acronym for a bunch of different things to help people plan and to set goals for your company. Let's see, when we're scaling, there's no shortcuts, unfortunately. The hard part for me is I like everything to go as planned and instantly. And I've learned that I have to step back a little bit, even now in my work today, and let things grow at the pace that they need to grow to ensure everyone's success in the company. So it definitely, when you're scaling, there's no shortcuts. It takes time. It's slow and steady growth. There's going to be mistakes, and we're definitely a company that accepts mistakes. Just even this week, we had someone, we're launching a new product, and I actually wanted it launched earlier than today, and it's not launching. The bottles aren't available. They were, the person in charge of that decided to wait, and it's going to cost us money. But we have a conversation and we talk about how to avoid those things. And I take ownership too, because I knew that I should have just had them order those darn bottles and had them in stock, but I let the person make the decision. So yeah, we're a company where it's okay to make mistakes as long as we learn from them and grow from them. So I think that's a big thing when you're scaling. because I'm assuming that maybe you don't know how to scale your company, as I did not know. I had to figure it out as we went along. But it's a slow, steady, and strategic climb. And I think that's the difference from moving on from a company that's sort of grassroots to more corporate, is being strategic. So, you know, we're at one point in time, we weren't driven by data. Now I want data on everything. We have formulas for our pricing that we've set out. We have data that definitely drive our decision making and our forecasting as well. And that definitely came out of our strategic plan, just some of those better practices too. Yeah, of course, going back to that mentorship piece, asking for help, right? So as part of my strategic plan, this was kind of fun. And I don't know where you are in your business, but they say it's never too early to start this. And I started an advisory board for my business. So my husband and I are sole owners of the business. So we don't have a board of directors. We don't plan on ever having anything like that. I like to be able to make decisions on the fly and have the control. So we will continue to run our business that way so far. But I did start an advisory board, and I decided that I wanted, being a female in a male dominated industry, and you know, just in Thunder Bay, there's a lot of great business women, but I've now outgrown people because our business has grown so much and I've learned so much. And so I feel like it's hard for me to get advice that I need locally in certain areas anyway. So I started an advisory board, and so I'll just talk about this a minute because I think it's fascinating. If you read about it, there's a lot of literature about it, and not a lot of businesses do this. So it came up as part of our strategic action plan. So of course, I'm going to tick every box on that plan. And one of them was this. So I actually sought out women in all over Ontario who, and sort of the guideline for that is their business should be maybe 3 to 4 times bigger than my own. They have to be arm's length. It's not a paid position. So they're not there to, they're not vested in it in terms of monetary financial reasons, right? So I sought out women and I literally interviewed them. So we had conversations to see whether it was a good fit. So I interviewed someone, Sarah Jordan. She's the CEO of Mastermind Toys across Canada. She's intense. She's amazing. She's a kick-ass woman in business, a master's, you know, in business. And but it wasn't a good fit because I think she was actually too far ahead for me. And so, but again, we had a great conversation and it's wonderful. It was a great opportunity to network. I'm not good at networking because I like things to happen authentically and organically. So it was I felt that this was actually a great way to, even though I was cold calling them and approaching them, it was a great way to meet people authentically. But I ended up settling. So I had, I'll just let you know. So I have Karen Godino, who was worked for 30 years for Creemore, and she was the national marketing lead. So she's a part of my advisory board, and she left Creemore and now works just for fun for Blue Mountain Resorts. I asked and chose Garnet Pratt, who was the founder of Side Launch Brewing Company, and she came on my advisory board, and she was actually let go by her board of directors as a founding member of that company. And now she's dabbling in other things, has a master's in business as well. I also have Jamie Hubanoff, who runs the leadership agency, and she's a guru in HR all over North America. And she's so amazing and knowledgeable, but not familiar with my industry. So it was great to have those people too that aren't familiar. And then I also have Katie Simonok, who runs a mining company out of Geraldton. So it's a family run business that she's taken over from her dad, and she has a business partner, and they run this huge mining company and do acquisitions and work all over the world. So we meet once a month, and I'm able to use them as a sounding board to talk to them about my growth. They give me their opinions. We talk through a lot of things. They also give me encouragement, which is nice because sometimes it is a little bit lonely where you don't want to seek, you don't necessarily want everyone to know you don't know the answers all the time. So it's nice to be able to go someplace where I can feel safe and put myself out there a little bit too. So that's been a big part of my growth, even this past year, and is also impacting the way I lead and giving me confidence. So just to touch on leadership, my leadership style. So I think it's again, it might sound silly, but I am a teacher. I just finished teaching last week. So I've taught for 23 years. And I really feel like the way I manage a classroom or approach my students is often the way I approach my business and my people there, which might sound condescending, but it's not at all. So I did teach kindergarten. So there's definitely not well, sometimes I joke, this is my kindergarten room anyway. So, I'm at school, we approach things strength-based and with a growth mindset. And I definitely use those same terminologies with my staff. I work really, really hard, and I definitely tell them it's okay to sweat. So that's part of my leadership style is I'm very collaborative with my staff. I really work on my business now more than in my business, but I definitely step alongside them and help out when it's needed, physically, mentally, whatever. And we definitely focus and hone in on our employees' strengths and build from there for what they're good at and build out their roles. We've also shift a lot. So we cross-pollinate in my business. So our marketing manager knows how to do sales just in case. Our brewers know how to use the packaging line. So we do a lot of cross-pollination, again, focused on people's strengths. I think that's part of our leadership style, and having that growth mindset so that people, I think, are motivated in our company because there's room to grow, whether it's actually in the company in a hierarchy, or we also provide professional development, whatever they need. We meet with our staff for quarterly reviews, which are by no means an assessment of performance, but it's how's it going? What are your goals? How can we support you? You want that book? We'll buy it. You would like to take that course? Let's register you for that, so that people can feel that they're growing and developing professionally and that they're valued. So that's a really important one, just understanding what everyone needs to be successful. During our last quarterly reviews, we actually really touched on that. COVID really brought out people's true colors, right? Our staff were lovely. They were amazing. They worked hard. They dealt with the stress. We were there for them to support them and their families in a million different ways. But what we realized during COVID is people need different things. So we were really open about that, where some people wanted just time off. And so we were giving paid day off a month. And my general manager, myself, my husband, and our part-timers would look after the brewery, and our staff could just look forward to a paid day off to be with their families or to decompress. And I think that's been a really important part of our leadership during COVID, is understanding the needs of the staff. We did monetary bonuses. So also I talked about SMART goals. We set SMART goals last year in January, a year ago in January. When COVID hit, I actually kiboshed them. I said, no one needs this. No one needs to worry about checking these boxes, as we're all just surviving and working our asses off and trying to make sure the company's safe. So we definitely acknowledged staff every 3 months during COVID with monetary bonuses, which was appreciated. We had a staff wellness day in the fall where it was a fun day, and I had fun setting it up too. It was really joyful for me. So again, we didn't shut the brewery down, but we shut down the production, and our staff, our management and all our full-time permanent staff had the day off, but they were at work. And we shared with them, we started the day with a beautiful box from Pine Tree Catering with beautiful food and cheeses to start their day. We had a talk from a nutritionist about the connection between diet and wellness. We also did a little bit of staff stuff in there, like homework, like, some housekeeping. We had an amazing lunch for them, filled them up with a lot of good food so that they could socialize, and that, which was important, especially with the restrictions from COVID. We did we had a fitness person come in and talk about exercise. We offered to pay for fitness memberships and classes if they needed it, or assessments. And we ended the day with Barkeep coming in and doing a cocktail hour, showing us how to make some cocktails, which was lots of fun. And we also were fortunate to have the money to afford to buy NutriBullets for everybody, so they could make the smoothies that the nutritionist recommended. We provided them with all the equipment and stuff that they needed for their cocktails. So yeah, that was very specific examples, but that's our leadership style, is we really want to be involved. We want the staff to feel valued, and we have a very strong culture at our brewery, and we protect that at all costs. So that's probably one of our most important things, because if our staff is happy, our customers are happy. And we really try to strive for a really amazing customer experience. And I think that really starts with the staff. Any questions? I can keep talking, but are there any questions, or anything at all I could do, be random or with what we're talking about, or should I just keep talking? I don't know. I don't know if it's valuable or not, or any questions? No? Okay. So let's see, I just have some Post-its here just to make sure what I want to chat about. So yeah, and we started to talk about asking for help, and that's when I went on my rant about my advisory board. But I think a big thing with a successful business, or what I've learned, is there's no place for ego in business. And it's interesting because maybe some of you have had experiences where you're encountering people with ego, and I definitely have learned that doesn't work. So at our company, we're very approachable with each other. We try to communicate well and honestly. We have fun. We acknowledge mistakes. If I make a mistake, I acknowledge that. And I think that's why, oh, sorry, did someone say something? No? Oh, and so I think that's why maybe I have trouble with networking, because I come in contact with some egos, right? And I just want to have authentic conversations about business and about the struggles, because it's not easy. As well, when we were, oh, Deborah, sorry, I see Deborah's name popped up. Is there a question? No? Okay. So
she just came in the meeting, so I think she just was automatically unmuted. So go ahead.
Okay, me go ahead, or Deborah go ahead?
No, you go ahead.
Okay,
yeah,
great. So yeah, so I think that's a big thing. And I think sometimes it's hard as a female in business, because there can be a difference in our approach, and sometimes we can feel a little bit suffocated by different situations or whatever. And I think if you don't have an ego, and just, again, I think egos kind of hold you back, right? And so if you're able to put yourself out there, take risks, and you can be afraid of failure, but you're still going to put yourself out there and take what comes. I think that's a big deal, and that's really important to me. And even in my new facility that I'm opening up, this new business within childcare, that's the first thing I said to people in the interviews, is everyone leaves their ego at the door, right? Because we want our staff to work harmoniously together, and to listen and to respect each other's opinions. And that's, again, goes back to, like, there's IQ, but there's also EQ, this emotional intelligence. And I think it's important, to hopefully find people and to model to people empathy, but also dealing with stressful situations well, and how your staff always watch you, your customers watch you, how you're going to navigate things. And I think it's really important for yourself to have not only somewhat of an IQ in your field, but also the EQ, right? That emotional intelligence, I think, is really important. And as a leader, I know during COVID, it was difficult because, I'd often say to my husband, we don't really have anyone to turn to say, this really sucks. I'm stressed out. I hate my life right now, right? And so I think it was really important for us. I really had to make a conscious decision to increase my own emotional intelligence, right? So I get up early every day, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I exercise, and I, through COVID, started meditating, like a short meditation. And what really stinks is now if I don't do that, it throws off my day. And so I do it every 7 days a week. And I think that has really helped for me to be emotionally ready to deal with staff that might be stressed, customers that might be stressed out, stressful situations that have come into my business. I'll just talk about some of those maybe just for fun. So, one of the most stressful things we did during COVID was actually make sanitizer. And customers were so grateful. Our community was so thankful, which is wonderful, which is why we did it. But when people would say thank you, I'd be like, thank you so much for saying thank you, because it wasn't easy. So I lost I don't usually lose sleep, but I lost a lot of sleep over that. So let's just talk about navigating that specific aspect of our business during what was already a really stressful time. So we had the city approach us to make sanitizer. Our phone was ringing off the hook. for us to make sanitizer. And, at first we were like, we can't make sanitizer because we don't produce a high enough proof alcohol. But the demand was there, the need was there. We could do something about it. We're resourceful on that orange personality. So, the wheels started to turn and we communicated as a team. And we included our team in the decision making. In order to make sanitizer, we had to work a 6th day of work. So I made the decision to pay my staff a 6th day of overtime. The staff made the decision to commit to doing that because we didn't want to interrupt our beer production, because I didn't want to sacrifice revenue for my business either during such an unstable and uncertain time. So we made those decisions as a team. So it was important to lead and to be confident in what we were doing, also acknowledging that we were going to navigate it together. So what was really stressful there is we weren't sure. It was still early in COVID, and I knew we were already down. We were anticipating we'd be down by 20%. We didn't know that we'd have such a great year as it was. And we canned 1 million cans of beer, which was a milestone last year, of course, because we weren't selling kegs to the restaurants. So our beer production shifted. But we had enough capital to buy isopropanol, which was the alcohol needed for the sanitizer. And so it was very stressful because I had to make the decision to put my whole company on the line, to drain that capital that we had, that reserve, to buy sanitizer. And I don't get that money back right away. Like, we have to sell the sanitizer, we have to do all of that. So I was worried, because what if I just strap my whole company, I'm going to sink it, right? So I lost a lot of sleep, and it was funny, maybe I was a little bit paranoid, but I Googled the company because there was a supplier I had never dealt with, which was nerve-wracking. And I Googled them, and actually on Google Maps, I could see where their location was, but I couldn't see signage. So I was worried about it. And as it was, they did not take my money. I got my isopropanol. It was all good. So we also then, you sort of compartmentalize as you're leading and as you're approaching and taking risks. I find that's the best way to do it. So we dealt with that first, that stress. We were getting the product sent in. Now the next step was, how do we do it, right? We kind of talked about it, but actually putting it into practice. So we used the equipment that we had. My husband now stepped in to use his expertise and knowledge. So in his science background, he has a chemistry degree, but he figured out how to make it in our tanks. So we did that. And then we went to package it. So we decided to package it in cans, because that's what we know. We don't know how to package sanitizer, but we did have cans, and we knew we could do that. So we went to package our sanitizer, and the readers for that put the beer into the cans, we're putting the sanitizer in the cans, but sanitizer was too thin, and the readers weren't reading it, and they were just overflowing. So now we're like, okay, how do we tackle this problem? And again, we don't get flustered. No one gets upset. We always keep our cool. That's our entire team. And we figure it out together, which we did. We just had to add something to the mixture so that the sensors could read it. So we solved that problem. Anyway, the sanitizer went right to Orange Ambulance, which was amazing on their tarmac. So the next step, though, you think it's over. Oh, we figured it out. And also, I was also afraid of things exploding. So I was worried about that, because, I had other people say to me, another brewery, do you have an explosion-proof room? And I'm like, oh my gosh, no one told me about that, but I didn't need one. But I'm like, I'm going to ignore you, and I'm just going to stay in my own lane. And nothing exploded, and I was very worried about that. Anyway, we're very safe in our company, so we all felt good about what we were doing. But the next week, just to make the long story even longer, the next week, we went to make sanitizer. My husband's like, okay, I'll make it the night before, but then it crystallized in the pipes, so we couldn't just get it out. So then we had to figure out how to break down these crystals. And anyway, we figured it out. We did it, but that's part of the exciting part, especially when things work. But that point in time, it's just our success with that was just about taking risks, being open to navigating hard experiences. And again, I don't have the staff to be able to bellyache to, and I don't want to bellyache to my staff. I'm their leader. I don't complain. I can have honest conversations with our general manager, because he has been there from the beginning, and I can have that conversation with him, if I am stressed about something or worried. But we definitely don't put those stressors onto our staff. We carry them and on our shoulders. And I think that's a bit of our leadership style too, that we really try to own the big problems and discuss them on a need to know basis, and or afterwards to explain something, right? So that staff can remain calm and work, which we were able to do during that time, work through difficult problems that were coming up to make sanitizer. Let's see what else. So that was a really fun example. We also opened a daycare, which I won't get into that. That was equally stressful too. But but again, going back to leadership style, we're a pretty wholesome company. We feel we use that word a lot when describing ourselves. So we're also family friendly. And people don't often associate beer with family, but there's a little sidebar. So before COVID, there was a couple who were traveling and they had their wee baby with them, maybe 8 months old or whatever. And they were in our tap room, holding their baby, enjoying their baby as a family, but enjoying a beer and themselves as a couple. And I thought that for me, it just will always stick in my head, because that's sort of what we're about, is responsibly drinking, being able to enjoy your spouse or your partner and still, be active as a family. I have 2 children of my own, and they've grown up in breweries and it's hilarious. My daughter's 21, barely drinks, and my son's 18 and doesn't drink at all. And his friends kind of poke at him because of course they sip some beverages. So it's interesting how that all turned out. Anyway, so we are family focused. And I think, again, attending to your staff's needs and where they're at is really important, and I'm trying to understand that. So we really focus on what the staff needs and what their families need. Some people will give you the advice to not get involved too personally. I do agree with that to some degree. I don't refer to my staff as the family. We're a team, because families are unconditional love. Employment, there's a lot of love, but it might not be unconditional. So I always refer to my staff as a strong team, because we're always there for each other and we support each other. But again, part of what their needs are, we have a younger staff. We have lots of brewery babies. We just had 3 born since December. So we really support staff leaving to go see their kids, what they need. If their spouse is sick and they need to help. So we really try to support and have, and that was a great way we scaled, right? Our employee handbook, because we used to be very gray, where we wouldn't dock for sick days. People didn't abuse it, so they would take time or whatever they needed. Now we have policies in place to protect us, and so the staff can understand clear expectations, but we're still able to keep a bit of that grassroots in gray, where we can be like, okay, you didn't respond well to your COVID shot. Take the day, we've got you, don't worry about it. And so we really try to have a lot of give and take and I think that's where we've been able to meld that grassroots with the corporate too, in dealing with our staff and our HR, where we have really clear policies, clear expectations, but we definitely have a lot of conversations where we still will leave it gray, but the policy's there if we need it. So that's been something that's been really pleasing to me, because I was worried about our staff as we grew and losing that culture and that communication. And of course, COVID has hit hard everybody there with it in terms of the ability to socialize and things like that. But we work on that too, right? We have a patio now, so at least we can go outside and have a beer together. And most people are fully vaccinated in my place of business, which is wonderful too. Let's see. Just looking at my little post-its. Yeah, I already said it's okay to sweat. That's a big one in my business and the way I work. Let's see. So I think that's sort of a bit about leadership. I know it's just a lot of sort of personal stories, things like that. I don't have a specific way to leadership, but I know that I'm decisive, I'm purposeful, I'm honest, and I'm not wishy-washy. I find that doesn't make for a successful business to grow, to scale. You've got it. The more you grow, the bigger you get. You have to be decisive and you have to know what you want. And my staff really respect that. And they actually call me the hammer, which is kind of funny. And they say that with love, I hope. I had a staff member, it was something silly today. He wanted to paint something blue. And I was like, no, no, we're not painting. Like, okay, he knows that I'm not putting that idea down, but he's just like, okay, yeah, we're not painting it blue. So it could be from that to larger issues as well. But I think that's, and being able to take risks and model that for your staff with a positive attitude. Again, I never, for the most part, ever display a negative attitude or where something isn't figure outable, right? Everything is figure outable. And I think that's really important that your staff know that, and then they become solution people too, where they come to you with a problem, but they already have the solution or some ideas at least, right? Yeah. And then in terms of the scaling the business, we've done that. We're still doing it. And slow and steady. I think that's the biggest thing. It's to accept that, which has been the hardest thing for me, I think, because I want it all and I want it all now. But I have to accept that it's a process and we're all on the journey together. And I can't just, I just can't move forward with what I want. It has to be the team effort, right? So we all have to navigate our own interests, and I have to be okay with some changes with a larger staff that, I might change my outlook to suit my staff so that my staff can help me get there in the end, but maybe not exactly the way I would want it, but that's okay. Yeah. So I don't know, are there any questions or any stories or the ways you can relate, or how big are
Andrea.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Linda from Kelly Mental Health. Hi.
How's it going? Congrats on your baby. Was that like a year ago?
Thank you. I know, I didn't put it on Facebook. I'm like, principled about not wanting to display her life, but then I'm like, look at the cute.
Yeah, we all need cuteness. COVID.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just wanted to say, from the moment I first met you, I'm just so comfortable around you. I find you to be so authentic, real, down to earth. I just appreciate and really admire everything that you do and you've done. And a couple of questions. One, just about the daycare. I mean, there's so many regulations with daycare. I'm curious how you navigated those, or perhaps are still navigating those in terms of having procedures, ready to go. I'm sure it's very similar to how you navigated all the damn regulations about brewing, which I'm sure are endless. And then I'm also curious as well. I mean, as a business owner, we do get caught up. We do get emotional. I'm sure we make mistakes. Do you have any examples of maybe a time where, you did let that frustration show, and how did you manage it with your employees?
Yeah. Okay. So going to the daycare first. So we actually backtrack. I'll try to make it quick. So we opened a daycare unlicensed, which made me very nervous for obvious reasons. In our event space, we were the only, actually this space right here. This is our barrel house. This was a daycare for almost 10 months. We've moved it to a permanent location across the street from the brewery now. So now this event space can go back to what it should be meant for. So I was very nervous for obvious reasons, but I wanted to license now the daycare. I didn't really think like, is this a year thing? Is this a 2-year thing? And I just realized, this is here for a while. So I wanted to license it because then we could have more children. So it's more financially feasible for the business side of me. So I was having some trouble I had to rezone and things like that. And I was prepared to do that. And I actually went and looked at a properly zoned space that used to be a daycare. And I knew already on the way to view this building, my plan, I just popped in my head. I said, I'm going to, in my head, lease this space, open a fully licensed facility because there's a need for it. And if I'm going to do it anyway, might as well go big or go home. And that space will help float or make up any discrepancies that financially at my staff location, right? So that's exactly what we did. So that was in March. We set just like we would, and I don't know how we do it or how we manage it, but it's just like there's no choice, right? So we set the really tight deadlines. We renovated the place, we updated it, we had fire inspections, health inspections, and we set this timeline and we just met it. And I think having a strong team is really good, but I was alongside them. I was there on the weekend too, helping out and and I think that helps, right? To motivate people when you're working alongside them and working just as hard, or if not harder. We just got our licensing number. We had our 2-hour Ministry of Education inspection last Friday while we were already training staff. I'd already hired staff. I picked my opening date. We had kids registering. And we got the licensing and we opened with children on Monday. So it was stressful, but again, I think ego sometimes can get in the way, right? So I didn't have an ego. I don't know how to open a daycare. I don't know about this licensing. So I really put myself out there with the expert that I was dealing with from the ministry, had really transparent conversations about where I was at, what I wanted in terms of my timelines and could we do it? And that helps, right? When you just sort of put yourself out there that you don't necessarily know. But then you work hard to figure it out. So we did it. And I just said to my husband, I can't believe we did it. Like, we met the deadlines, every single one. And we are opening July 5th and we're able to house 39 children at this new facility. And now it's its own business. So it's a brand new business for me. We've created 11 jobs, which is amazing. And we want to open more because now it's not too far out of my wheelhouse. Like, I love kids because I've taught kindergarten for many, many years. So it's a lot of fun for me. So anyway, that's sort of, hopefully that answers your question. The regulations were hard, but they support you. The ministry supports you. And we just ask the questions and we're relentless in getting things done. So getting upset with staff, it's not very often. I can now, and I'll use my husband and myself as the examples. My husband's different, right? So he might have a bit of a shorter fuse or might not be able to hide his displeasure with something. So he knows when to remove himself. So if he's going to get upset for whatever reason, because something's happened in the business or someone's disappointed him, which does happen. And I know we've disappointed people in our business too, right? He'll just remove himself and leave, so that he can decompress and reassess things with a calmer head or whatever. It doesn't happen often. So myself, I'm able to, it takes a lot to get me going and to get my fuse really, really short. So even with and I'll use this bottles as the example, because I'm still pissed about it. Like, I wanted this, we're launching a craft soda. We're trying to make up lost revenue in 2021. I wanted it launched earlier. But you also, I think the biggest thing for me and my husband's the same in this respect, is control what you can control. And the only thing I can control, I can't get the bottles here tomorrow. I can't, they're delayed. And so we're figuring out what is our best approach. So we're going to get a different bottle in the time being. Everything's figure outable, and then we'll launch it properly with proper bottles. But we're still going to get other bottles, which aren't the bottles we wanted, which aren't the bottles we're going to use, but we're going to get them and launch that. But control what you can control. So all I can control, and this I used it a lot during COVID, is my response. So when I tell myself that, all I can control is my response. I can't change anything. I can't change the outcome. I can't change that the tap room's closed. I can't change that this employee is having a breakdown. I can't change that this mistakes happen. But I can't control that, but I can control my response. And maybe it's just my own skills to self-regulate, or what I've done to take care of my mental health during this, especially during COVID. Maybe that helps, but I control what I can control. And the only thing I can control is my response. And when I take that approach, then the response is usually reasonable. Does that make sense?
Sure does. I'm just driving, so I can't respond, but that's awesome. Thank you.
So I mean, it's such a big thing in business, because we get hit from every side, right? If you're a business owner, you're getting punched from behind, you're getting punched, you're getting hit with all these different things. And it really sucks to be unhappy, and it really sucks to be angry or frustrated. So I really make a conscious decision to choose my feelings, and my approach. And again, if I can't change something, I'm not getting upset about it. So the bottles, am I annoyed? Yes. Does it bug me? Yeah. Like, I have this annoyance in the side of my head, but I sat with that staff member today, and we had great conversations, and we're resolving it, and it is what it is. And yeah, so it's definitely that approach is big. So I don't get upset. I just figure it out and we move on. And I'm not a grudge holder. I know that's my personality, so I'm fortunate that way, but it's harder for some people to let go. But I have a very easy time letting go if I've been disheartened or something's been frustrating. So that is a plus just for my own personality, right? It just helps me. I let it go or have a beer. Oh, and here's one other thing I do sometimes if I'm really having a bad day, which isn't often, I just tell myself, if I can just get to sleep tonight, and I'm really good at sleeping, if I can just get to sleep, tomorrow's a new day. And sometimes that self-talk helps, right? And it works. I just got to get through today and get to bed. And then tomorrow's a new day. And then it's a different approach. I start my routine, right? I wake up, I have my coffee, I exercise, I do all that. Anyway, sorry, I chat. Any other questions? Now you guys are all frozen. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but
Yeah, we can still hear you. I don't see any questions in the chat, but anyone feel free to write in your questions or unmute yourself if you do have questions.
and
We have gotten some comments about how inspiring you've been and how great your talk is. Just so I don't know if you're looking at the chat, but
blabbing on. I could blab on forever about all sorts of different things, but well, then if there's no questions, I'm just going to tell some stories. So, about business. I don't know where everyone is in their business. So I assume there's some startups. I assume, there's some people maybe that are getting ready to scale up or whatever. But I'll just talk about, here's a funny story that I'll tell two stories about. Just again, they always say you have to have thick skin, and now I'm just going to jump around. But I had this really important. Now I'm sorry, I'm changing to a third story. I'll tell the other two stories before, but now I want to just jump to this other one because I had this really important meeting. And I won't get into the details, but it was really one of the most important meetings I've ever had in terms of my company. And I was fighting for the life of my company at this one meeting, and I was sitting there, and these two gentlemen were giving me advice about what to do and I disagreed with them. And the one fellow looks at me, he goes, sometimes you just have to have thick skin. Well, Linda, I did not hide my emotion. I turned and pointed my finger on that table and said, don't tell me about thick skin, right? I'm 7 years into my business. Don't tell me about thick skin. I have thick skin. And you're telling me to make decisions which I feel aren't good for my company. Anyway, hopping back. So thick skin, yeah, you definitely, again, it's controlling your response to something which might not come easy, but something you can work at. Self-talk. I don't have anxiety. I'm not an anxious person, but I still do self-talk for myself, right? About how to manage things. And I think you really have to be kind to yourself as a leader in your company, because you do bear the brunt of all the problems and the good things as well, but you do know every problem that's going on in your company and things like that. So going back to the first summer that we opened, we were at the Dragon Boat Festival, and it was sort of our first time serving beer in public. And I was a little embarrassed because, again, we opened our brewery on a budget. We didn't have all the shiny things right away. And I think that's a problem that people have nowadays. I see people opening businesses with like so much debt to begin with, and it makes me very uncomfortable. But we were at this festival. We didn't have any nice tents or tablecloths like we do now. And so I was a bit embarrassed by that. So we tried to fix it up a little bit for day two, but I served a fella a beer. And we knew that when we opened the brewery, we were not trying to change the blue light drinkers to our beer. We knew that, if you're a blue light drinker, drink your blue light. That's great. If you like the macro brands, but we opened the brewery to really educate people about how wonderful beer is and the different styles and just like wine, right? So I served this gentleman a beer, and he drank it, and he yelled at me because he hated it so much and dramatically poured it out into the grass, And again, it's those moments as a business owner, and it actually never really bothered me. I remember it vividly, and I always will. But it's like, yeah, this is why we're doing it. We're just here to educate people. And I don't need him to drink or love our beer. And now I wonder, though, 8 years later, 9 years later, does he drink our beer now? I wonder. Anyway, so that's just an interesting little story. And then a few years later, I was at a local restaurant, and I had taken my teaching staff to the old site. We were at the old site of our old brewery, and for a tour. And we went to this restaurant to have a drinks and apps afterwards. And a lot of people, you know, maybe now that I am leading my company, I'm definitely in the public a lot more than I was at the beginning when I wasn't in a leadership position per se. I asked the staff, the waitress or the server, what do you have on tap? She didn't know that I was from the brewery. And so she went through all the beers and she said, oh, well, we also have Beaver Duck, which is one of my favorite beers, but I wouldn't recommend it, she said to me. So I said, oh, really? Like, why wouldn't you recommend this beer? She says, well, it tastes like gasoline. And I was like, can I just try a little bit of that? She still didn't know I was the owner of Sleeping Giant. And I never told her, and I didn't correct her. I'm not like that. I'm not going to correct her or embarrass her or whatever. So I tried it. It was delicious. I had a full pint of it. There wasn't anything wrong with it. But again, it's just I think navigating business and your own business and attitude is a really big part of it, because there's all these different situations that you're going to have to deal with, and a lot of hard conversations. I can't tell you how many hard conversations I've had over the years, but approach is a big thing. So I didn't talk to the server, but I definitely went back to the brewery and talked to our sales team. And I said, okay, let's talk to this business and just let them know, right? They shouldn't describe the beer as gasoline, or maybe we need to do a better job educating the people serving our beer, right? Because craft beer was still something a bit newer back then. So anyway, that's kind of a funny story. I always think about that one too. Our beer tastes like gasoline, and I guess I like gasoline. It was delicious anyway. So yeah, that's definitely, yeah, you come across some really interesting situations, that's for sure. Yeah. Any other questions, or I don't know, story? I'd love to hear some of your stories, or what, if you want to share what business. I'm just curious who's here, like what businesses, or are you thinking about starting a business, or how big your business is?
Andrea, I do have another question for you. It's Linda.
Yeah.
I noticed you said just about how you like to be able to make decisions on the fly. You know, you like to have that control. And I'm just curious what your experience has been like in the past with trying to share management, or potentially having people that want to be shareholders and having, you know, them wanting control. What's been your experience with that?
It's so hard, right? Because I think one of the hardest things, and that we're never going to be amazing at, we'll always be striving to be better, is communication, right? And we still struggle with that so much. So it's like, someone's like, I didn't know that. Well, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry you weren't in that email chain or that conversation. So something simple that I did is I started a monthly connection. And originally my general manager was doing it. And again, I realized I'm the better person to do that in terms of my strengths. So I started a monthly connection, so that decisions that are being made, because there's a lot of moving parts in my business, like there's a lot going on at any given time in any given department, right? So I started a monthly connection. So the first or second of every month, I task it to everybody. I send it out to my department heads. What information do you want me to include? I'm usually abreast of what's going on, so then I will add to it as well. And then I create a monthly connection so that I'm disseminating that information to people in an orderly fashion. The other thing, you know, even this year, like we started, you know, people, I don't know that beer's come. I didn't know we were going to have that beer being made, says my retail manager. Well, okay, how are we going to change this? So we now have a monthly production meeting combined with front of house. So we bring those two teams together once a month so that they can share what's going on and they know, right? But, and sometimes I make decisions and I don't tell, and people get persnickety with me, and that's okay, because there's that fine line that I'm still the owner and I can make the decisions and do what I want, and you have to accept it. But I also don't micromanage, and I really try to allow my managers to do their jobs the way they want, which might not always be the way I would want it. And I'm okay with that, right? Because the overarching approach is that they're running, I'll use my retail manager as an example. She's running a multi-million-dollar storefront. She's killing it. Do I know if one of our part-timers is sick? No. Do I want to know? No. So, you know, she's doing such an amazing job. So I really try to step back. And it was so funny during COVID, I stepped right in, right? Because I laid off 24 people. So we're all working really hard. And we were like a little married couple, right? Kind of like back and forth, because I was in her turf. even though it's my turf, right? So then I had to make the conscious decision to step back and to let her do her thing too. But sometimes people get annoyed with me, but we've created an environment where they can also tell me. So I can't remember what I did. It doesn't matter. I made a decision or did something that someone maybe wasn't aware of. I can't remember what it was, but they actually approached me about it. And that's the most important thing. And I accept that feedback. We discuss it as a team and then we move forward, right? So that's important, but it's hard. It's hard all the time to deal with that communication piece and let people know what decisions are being made, especially because there's a lot of people making a lot of different decisions every day in my business. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to 1:15. So thank you very much, Andrea. I think you've inspired lots of people here today. I know I took some notes on some of the more quotable things you said.
Well, we're still a work in progress too. We're still, will always be a work in progress. So we acknowledge that. But we'll see in 5 years where we are, right? So it'd be fun. We've got a lot of plans.
For me, I wrote down it's all figure outable, whether you're in business or in your personal life. I think that's an important important thing to remember, right? Is you can work through it.
There always is. Yeah. And that's part of the fun part, right? Oftentimes we're dealing with that in a moment, right? We're figuring it out. And trust me. And it's that attitude, the can-do attitude, right? That growth mindset. There's everything, you can figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you very much for coming. Thank you to all the participants for coming out. We do have our presentation next week. So now for the summer, we'll be going down to just one Wednesday webinar. So next week is about market research at the library. Yeah, so hope to see you guys there. And thanks again, Andrea, for coming and inspiring us all today.
Questions, I'm just an email away. So please don't hesitate to reach out. I often have random women especially reach out. So please don't hesitate. I love to chat or have conversations or answer questions and support each other. So yeah. Okay. Enjoy this.
Thank you.